welcome back to my channel. Thank you to everybody who's watching, new and current subscribers, thank you. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Holly. My current subscribers have probably seen a few of my other videos but probably never my face. So hi, it's me. I bet you're glad you can finally put a face to the name. So yeah, today I wanted to basically tell my life story and explain more in depth about what happened, how I become disabled, how I become a wheelchair user, what happened to little one when she was born, my whole pregnancy journey and how rough that was. So I wanted to basically go right back to the beginning from where me and my husband met, and yeah, go from there. So it was, I think it was June 2014, me and my husband met, and well, we're now husband. We started dating then, and we was dating for quite a while. I think it was nearly a year we were dating. We were exclusive, but yeah, dating and learning about each other, and so that was a good point in our relationship, I think. And then I think it was about a year in, we experienced our first pregnancy. I know it was very early on in our relationship, but that is just how it happened. So yeah, that was our first pregnancy. We got to the early second trimester of that pregnancy, and that was a little boy, and unfortunately we had a miscarriage, and we lost him. And then we went on to about a year later, we experienced the same thing. We got pregnant again. This was then 2 years into our relationship. We experienced the same thing, but this time it was a late first trimester miscarriage, and again we lost him again. That was another little boy, and unfortunately miscarried him. And then we, obviously it has a massive effect on anybody who's ever experienced anything like that. So then we went on to having a break. We both knew that we wanted children, we wanted marriage, and we could only see each other's in our future, etc. You know how it goes. So yeah, we took a break from trying for babies, pregnancies. We took a break from everything and we just focused on us. And then that's what we did for a year and a half or so. And then we had a hiccup and we got pregnant again. But unfortunately this time it was I think about 10 week miscarriage, and then we had our fourth miscarriage. It was, I actually didn't know, but it was on our wedding day. I didn't know that I was actually pregnant. I wondered why my dress was a little bit tighter than it should have been, and now it wasn't until a few weeks after that we found out. And unfortunately straight after we got married we actually miscarried that too, but it was again about 8 weeks we miscarried that pregnancy. And then we stopped. We were having a break. We weren't, so we've gone from the fourth one to the fifth pregnancy. There was a little bit of a gap there, but between the third miscarriage and the fourth, there was quite a big gap. I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't take it. I didn't think it was going to be something that we was going to even be able to do. So yeah, we put a halt to that. There was no more. So yeah, we stopped that there. So after we got married, so that was our miscarriages from 2015 to 2019. So that was quite a long period of time. And then in September 2018 we got engaged. Sean proposed to me in a nice beautiful hotel. This was near Windsor in London. absolutely beautiful hotel, massive like castle type hotel, and they had beautiful gardens there that had the River Thames going through it. So yeah, that's where we got engaged. Can't fault him on that one. Absolutely beautiful ring. So of course I said yes, but then we went on to have a very short engagement, and then in April 2019 we got married, and then that's when everything started to, after we got married, everything started to spiral out of control. So the dog's come to say hi. He's a bit poorly at the moment, so I think he's feeling sorry for himself and he wants mummy cuddles. Come on then. You've got to sit down. Good boy. So yeah, after we got married, it's sort of like I said, that was, I didn't know we were pregnant while we were getting married or before. We didn't know until we literally found out, and then I think it was like 4 days later we had a miscarriage. So it was quite later on in the pregnancy that we actually found out, because we weren't trying, and I don't have regular cycles to know and to keep track of it. So yeah, unfortunately that happened, and then it was September, I believe. Yes, September we went on honeymoon. We went to Paris in France. We had a beautiful time there, and then it was a bit of a coincidence that when we were there I was craving cheeseburgers, and this is not like me. I hated cheeseburgers. I never ate them in my life. It wasn't something that I had ate. Yeah, it just wasn't. Even now they just gross me out. I don't eat them now. I didn't eat them before, but during the pregnancy with Everly, it was all I could eat. It was cheeseburgers. It's bizarre, but all my other pregnancies, my cravings were mangoes. So I don't know whether that has something to do with my husband being African, or yeah, but my other cravings with their first 4 pregnancies were mangoes, and then with Everly they were cheeseburgers. So yeah, of all cravings I could get, it was cheeseburgers. And then when we got back off honeymoon, that was September, Sean got deployed straight away. He ended up going to the other side of the world, and he was on an operational tour, and so I was at home on my own. At this point, after we got married, we moved into military accommodation up in Windsor, because that was where he was based at the time, and I was there on my own. I was miles and miles away from family, so we had to obviously plan, and every other month we would see family. They would come to me, and then the next month I'd go to them, vice versa. Yeah, so it was quite hard. It was just being married, just getting back off honeymoon, and then everything else that was happening in between them times. So he went off to the other side of the world on operation, and then I was at home on my own. Obviously I was still working at this time. I was still going to work every day, and that was how that worked. And then it was the first weekend of November in 2019, which I believe was the 4th. I was halfway through pregnancy with Everly. I was about 16 weeks when this happened. So we had quite a smooth pregnancy. Sorry, I'm just going to go back slightly. So we had quite a smooth pregnancy from finding out, because we took a test right at the end of our honeymoon when we was in France, and it had a very faint line. And then when we got back, I took the pink dye test, which are normally better than the blue dyes, and it was positive, clear as day. You know, it was the strongest positive you could get. Took a clear brew. It was 3+ weeks. Yeah, so this was 3+ weeks on a pregnancy test with the clear blue. So we knew 100% that was pregnant. So at that point I had to contact my gynecologist and get put on blood thinning injections. Well, I was already on them previously for a good few months beforehand, so I think that's why I did get pregnant unsuccessfully, because I was on them before I got pregnant, because I was having issues with my blood level because I have a blood disorder. So I was having issues about my blood clotting and it was too thick, so I was on them anyway. So I think that helped from being on that right from the start. So I think that's why this pregnancy was the only successful one. And going from that to then when I found out I was pregnant, it was straight on the phone to the gynecologist and he tripled my dose of injections. So I think I went from 5,000 units of is it Selexine? I think that's how you pronounce it, to 20,000. So that was quite a massive jump, but it was very much needed because throughout the pregnancy I had issues with the umbilical cord. My blood was still too thick because I was going through a flare at the time, so I had to have the higher doses of blood thinning injections, and she still had blood clots in the umbilical cord, so I was having scans once or twice a week to keep a really close eye on that because I was really high risk anyway. So yeah, that's from when we found out to when I had my accident. So it was November 4th, like I said a second ago. This was the date I had my accident. So it must, I'm sure it was first thing in the morning. I can't really remember because I had really bad concussion and quite a bad head injury from the accident. So there's still bits that I can't remember, and still to this day that I don't remember at all. And I don't think I will ever get their memories back, and I don't think I want to be honest, because it is quite a traumatic experience to go through for anybody really, isn't it? I think that's any experience you don't want to have their memories back, do you? So I obviously was going downstairs to the kitchen or lounge or whatever I was going to do, because we was in a normal house then, and put one foot on the first step at the top, and then that was it, cold turkey. I was out, I'd passed out, and I'd obviously known now that I fell down the stairs. Lucky enough that I went down kind of legs and bum first, so my back was facing the steps and not my stomach, so I didn't go down head first. I went down bum and back first, and then obviously my lower back has hit the child stair gate at the bottom of the stairs, and then obviously I had a really bad head injury from obviously hitting the banisters or the walls on the way down, or hitting the wall at the bottom of the stairs. I'm not sure, but yeah, I had quite a bad head injury from that also. And then I'm not sure how long I was there for. I don't know who found me. I don't know how I got to the hospital. I don't know anything. I just know I woke up in hospital to the doctors. I had so many people around me at the time. I was braced down on a spinal board and had my head clamped because they didn't know what part of my spine I'd fractured. They didn't know what injuries at this point I sustained, or probably, or I don't know whether they'd done scans and they knew, or I don't know. And then I had one doctor come in, and then I had two other doctors come in, and I had loads of nurses around me, and all I remember them telling me was, we're taking you for you to have a medical abortion because we need to plate and stabilise your spinal fractures. And at this point I was just screaming. I said, no way, you are not doing that, kind of like over my dead body, telling them to jog on, and it's just not happening. I told them to get me a wheelchair and I'm going home. Yeah, I wouldn't have let them do that. I was way too far into a pregnancy. I would never ever have had an abortion anyway. Yeah, I don't agree with it. We had been trying for too long. It was just no brainer. It was never ever going to happen. And I think when the doctors realised that if they did that, it was without my consent. So they agreed that they wouldn't do that. So I ended up being bedbound for the rest of my pregnancy with Evelyn. So that was the only part of being in hospital that I remember. I don't really remember anything else. I don't remember being in the scans. I don't remember even getting home from the hospital. And then the next memory that I did have was, it must have been like 3 or 4 days later. I think it was the next day after I got home, but again I'm not 100% sure because I don't actually remember getting home, or I don't remember what time or day of the week it was. So sorry, gonna take a break for a second. So like I said, it must have been 3 or 4 days later that I got home. And then it must have been, because it was quite early in the morning, so I must have come home the day before, but God knows how I got there. That one of my neighbours actually called me. She lived opposite me at the time, and she called me and was like, oh, well, I saw an ambulance outside your bit yesterday, is everything okay, or is it to do with your neighbour, did you know anything? And I was like, oh yeah, it was probably me, because I literally was reading through my discharge papers as literally straight after she called. I read through them properly and I was like, yeah, I think I broke my back, I'm just looking through my papers now, I'm not quite sure, but I can't move, I'm bedbound, I don't have any feeling in my legs or below my hips anymore. And she was like, oh my god, how did this happen? Like, at this point I was like, I'm really not sure. So kind of the hospital just sent me home and just left me to it. I had no supervision at home because my husband wasn't there. I was new to the area, so I didn't really know anybody. I was very lucky that the lady opposite me called the military welfare team, which is when there's an emergency at home and your husband's on operation or deployed. That's who you contact. So I'm very thankful that she actually contacted the welfare team on my behalf and obviously told them, and then the welfare, they come straight round, and that's when they started putting all the different supports in place for me, because I don't remember the last time I ate, I didn't remember the last time I had a drink, obviously I couldn't move. It was just one of them situations that was like I needed my husband to come home now. And it took them a couple of days to get him home, obviously because he was the other side of the world. But they were so quick on, to the point of telling him after they'd found out. It was a matter of hours before he knew, because obviously he was deployed on operation, so he was in the middle of nowhere, so they've had to go from base camp to go out and look for him and get him to bring him back to camp to get all his stuff and his passports to then get back to the airport to then fly home. So, but they were very quick to him finding out, to him getting all his personal phones and stuff back. So yeah, it was a matter of a couple of hours, and then that evening he was on the flight home, and then he landed, so he had a couple of connection flights too, I believe. So he landed home, I think it was the evening the next day or 2 days later. But it was within 48 hours he was home. So I was so thankful for that. And then yeah, they managed to get somebody to pick him up from the airport and bring him straight home. There was no him going back to camp and checking in, or there was none of that. It was straight home. It was catching up on everything that's happened. So after that, after we'd gone through all of that and I'd kind of like woke up and realised what had happened, it was back to the hospital, having a meeting with the spinal surgeons. And I actually didn't like the spinal surgeon after what had happened about him going ahead with the medical abortion without my permission. And it was lucky enough that I'd kind of like woken up from my concussion to actually realise what was going on before it had happened. So yeah, I didn't didn't feel comfortable with him. I was never going to let him examine me. I didn't want him anywhere near me. So because of that, his secretary put me in contact with another spinal surgeon that was up in Ascot. I couldn't fault him. I was with him until we moved. He helped me a lot. So we ended up getting a consultation with him. It took a month or so, but we managed to go and have a conversation with him. He talked us through all my injuries and like where we go from there and who to contact for support, how to get adoptions on the property, things like that. even though we were fighting for a very long time to get the support and everything that I needed. So I was actually very, very lucky that I had family support. My sister and my mum were at mine a lot more. So yeah, I was actually very lucky when it comes down to support wise from family and from my husband. I was actually very lucky. Actually, what injuries I did sustain from that fall. So I had fractured multiple bones in my lumbar spine, which is the last part of your spine, so it's all lower back. I fractured my hip socket, and I fractured my tailbone and all my coccyx. So, and then I ended up with a compressed spinal cord at an L4 level, and I ended up herniating the discs between L3, L4 and L4, L5 and then L5, L6. So, oh, I think after L5 it's S1, isn't it? But between all of them, I had herniated discs, I had bulging discs, they'd all slipped out. They were quite protruding out of where they should have been. So there was nothing really they could do about the spinal compression and all my clamp nerves and stuff. And then it wasn't until later on that we found out that I actually had nerve damage from the clamp on the spinal cord. So that actually caused me to have permanent nerve damage. We don't ever know if my nerves will wake up or if they will recuperate from the fractures or from the fragments that had come off the fractures or the compression. We don't know. Still to this day we don't know. So it was just one of them things that we're gonna have to just keep going, keep up with the therapies, keep trying to recover. And still to this day, we're 4 years on and I'm still in recovery. I think it's gonna be never ending. I've just got to keep going, keep pushing myself to my limits and keep seeing what I can achieve as you know, somebody in this situation. So going back to the pregnancy, so by the time we went back and we saw the spinal surgeon and stuff, I was about 22 weeks pregnant. And this is when, after the accident, this is when I started having some serious complications. I was having a few issues with her umbilical cord having blood clots and stuff in it. We was having issues with getting the right dose of blood thinning injections, but they had all stabilised out and we was both okay. We was both stable enough to continue. So going back to 22 weeks pregnant, it was very early in the morning, so it was like middle of the night. And I started getting contractions, but at first I just thought they were Braxton Hicks. I didn't really think anything of it, but no, turned out it was contractions because it progressively got worse. They got closer together. So I think it got to about 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning and I was like, I know this is serious now, I need to call the midwife. So we called the hospital, we called the midwives and I went straight in. And it turned out that I went into labour way too early than it should have been, but given the circumstances, we knew what to watch out for. We got warned that it might happen, it might not. Obviously having something that traumatic happen to your body while you're pregnant, it's quite, it's not ideal really, is it? So we got to labour and delivery at the hospital, and they gave me quite a few injections to try and stop the labour, to slow it down or to stop it completely. And then they done all the tests and stuff like that to make sure my waters hadn't gone, because again I had no feeling from kind of like the waist down. I just had the contraction feeling obviously in my stomach, and you know, when you're people who've had children know that when your stomach clamps up, but I didn't have no feeling below my hips, so I'm not sure if down below was contracting, I don't know. So we went and we had all them tests done, and then we ended up having all the injections, and they were scanning me to make sure baby was okay and she was still happy, which she was fine. Her heart was still really strong. She wasn't in any danger immediately. It was just the contractions that started. So lucky enough, they gave me the injections to try and stop the labour, and thankfully they did work. So we was monitored there for quite a while that day. We didn't go home till well after dinner time and bedtime. It was quite later on in the evening that we got sent home. So I was monitored there pretty much the whole day. So that happened again, back on bed rest when I got home. Couldn't move, wasn't allowed to do anything. Yeah, so that's what happened on that occasion in the hospital. And then after then, it was kind of, I was in hospital pretty much daily, to be honest. I was getting checkups, making sure I wasn't then going into labour. We was getting reviews, making sure my blood thinners were still working, making sure my umbilical cord was clear enough that she was getting everything that she needed, as the nutrition and the oxygen and, you know, everything that a baby needs when they're growing. After that, we had 1 or 2 scans a week. Some weeks it was 2 or 3 scans, some weeks it was just 1, depending on the umbilical cord and how baby was reacting to how many scans we had. So like they might say, yeah, you have to come back tomorrow, we need to check her again. Or they might say, you're fine for a couple of days, come back on Friday. Because my normal scan routine was Monday or Tuesday, and then the Friday was my normal routines for scans. And these were specialist scans. These weren't, you know, these weren't with the nurses in the normal scan centres. These were actually with the high NICU consultants. These were with the proper pregnancy and baby specialists. These were special machines that weren't even in the scan centres. I'd actually never seen these machines before until this pregnancy. So yeah, these are special machines that they do all sorts of thing with your pregnancy. If they need to take some fluid from baby, that's where they do it. It was that kind of in-depth scan that they needed. So we got sent home that evening, like I say, back on bed bound. And then again a few weeks later, so I was then 26 weeks, or give or take here and there. Yeah, we was 26 weeks. And then this time I was in the bath and I felt something pop. I wasn't sure whether it was my wall. Sorry if the camera angle has moved a little bit. I had to change my memory card. So I was saying, when we got to 26 weeks pregnant, so the same process happened again. So we went into labour, I started contracting again, and we started to, sorry if the camera angle has moved a little bit, I had to change my memory card. So we're saying, when I was I think we got to 26 weeks, didn't we? So when we was 26 weeks, the same thing happened again. We went into labour. We ended up going down to the hospital, calling the midwives, having check-up on the baby, etc. This time my waters were leaking. So this time it was a lot harder to stop my labour or to slow it down. It was a close call on delivery this time. So I think I was in labour, slow labour, for like 12 hours or so. They were doing everything they can. They were trying to stop everything. They were on the phone to a higher NICU ward that was, I think it's near Westminster in central London. So we were going to get transferred over to the children's hospital because that was the best place for her, and the issues that come up on the scan a few days earlier, she was having some issues with her lungs. that was the best hospital and care that she was going to get. So that was where we was going to have her. That was where we was going. So we was literally, everything was set. There was a room ready for us. There was a space in the NICU ready for Everly. There was an ambulance outside, literally ready to transfer beds and ready to take me in the ambulance to go. And then another doctor come on shift, and he knew a lot more about me and a lot more about my case. He worked very closely with my actual consultant for my pregnancy, and he was like, no, let's try one more thing. I know you're not allergic to this medicine, so you haven't had that yet, so let's give this one a go. It's a bit stronger than the other ones you've had before, so let's just try it. So we was like, okay, we'll give you another hour, and if we're still in the same situation, then you'll go with the ambulance. So he gave me this stuff. He had to inject it into, was it my bum or my top of my thigh? I can't remember. I can't remember, it was so long ago. So yeah, he gave me that, and then I think after about 20 minutes the contractions slowed down, and they were like 5 minutes apart, 6 minutes apart, and then they slowly got to being like 7-8 minutes apart, and then 10 minutes apart. So it really slowed the progress down, which I think at that time we was really thankful for. And then it got to a point where it could stop completely. I wasn't having any more contractions, the monitor wasn't picking anything up. Then again, scans, they swabbed me to make sure my waters hadn't fully broken and there was still fluid around the baby, because I did leak some fluid. And then yeah, they scanned me again on a special machine to make sure a baby was okay, to make sure there was still fluid around her and her lungs were okay, and she shouldn't have any blood clots in her umbilical cord or anything like that. So they checked that, and then it got to the scan room, and then they were scanning us, and she was absolutely fine in there. She was a happy little girl. She was literally there on the camera waving her arms around, like saying hi to us all, like causing dramas. She still is to this day, causing dramas. So then we went on to at 26 weeks. This was when this was actually over the Christmas period, so the hospitals were really busy. Yeah, this was over Christmas of 2019, going into 2020. So they had to schedule my appointment slightly different for over the Christmas period, which it was fine. It all worked out anyway. But I think it was just from, I think I'd done too much over Christmas, and then because the 26-week mark happened to be in between Christmas and New Year. So I think I just had done too much over Christmas, because we was actually really naughty and we went out of area, which was, looking back, really stupid to do, and we shouldn't have done it. We actually went and saw my sister and my mum at my sister's house that year, and my sister threw me like a little gender reveal party, because I didn't actually know what we was having until one of my scans, and then the doctor put it in an envelope and I gave that straight to my sister. So my sister was actually the first one to know what we was having, and then she made us a cake, and then we popped a balloon and stuff and found out it was a little girl. Yeah, so that was absolutely beautiful. So that's why we did go there for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So yeah, that was absolutely lovely. It was one of a nice Christmas. But yeah, so then we went home, and then all the drama started again. And then so the doctors managed to stop that labour and kept me going again. So they sent me home after that. So the ambulance and stuff all got called up, and they were like, it's fine, it's stopped now, let's keep monitoring you. So I think I was in for about a week, and then I got sent home. And then after that, it was, they wanted me in daily. After that, yeah, they wanted me in daily. They wanted me on the monitors for at least an hour a day. So it was back and forth to and from the hospital after I got discharged, and because they obviously had to do everything they could to make sure baby was okay. And yes, so we was fine for a couple of weeks over the New Year period, and then I think it got to when I was, when was it? I was just shy of 30 weeks, which was an absolute miracle to even get to 30 weeks with everything that was actually happening. So yeah, we got to 30 weeks and then the same thing happened again. Hi guys, the future me here. So I just wanted to add here that because the video is such a long video, I'm going to split this into 2 parts. So this is part 1, and stay tuned. In the next couple of days I'll have part 2 also on the channel, so look out for that one.